We discovered the Viking Dog Park in July of 2008. This was our first dog park experience, and we thought it was wonderful. Firstly, it had 2 beaches for dogs to swim and play, and secondly, it was a beautiful living picture of wildflowers, complete with birds and butterflies. Truly a sight to behold. We fell in love with this park, and I brought our dogs to this place 5 days a week, 52 weeks of the year, to get our exercise and social playtime. The main unleashed dog park area is a sensitive water shoreland peninsula property that includes the river on one side, a lagoon on the other, and 4 main meadow areas surrounded by mown lawn, tunneled sandlot willow, and woodlands. Migratory birds such as meadowlark, bluebirds, and red-winged blackbirds frequent these meadow areas and nest there naturally. Generally, dogs don't bother these birds, but if they do, the birds play their dive-bombing games to keep their nests safe. Coyotes are the real dangerous predator here. Across the lagoon, the sand-hilled cranes like to make nests in the tall grass to hide their young, and many rarely sighted birds feed there as well. This is delightful to see. In June of 2012, in the off-leash dog park area, I saw Dane County Parks Department come in and mow down these baby birds in their nests. Wholesale slaughter. Have you ever heard angry birds? For weeks these birds cried for the loss of their offspring, cruelly killed by heedless men on mowing machines. I knew this had to be illegal, and after doing some research, discovered that the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 does in fact legally protect over 800 species of birds, and this was in gross violation thereof. During the same time, I continued to witness the systematic ruination of this beautiful environment. Besides killing baby birds in the nest, they were destroying the wildflower population along with the entire ecosystem, including bees and butterflies, compounding the collapse of their populations. All of this natural beauty was being replaced with noxious wild parsnip. I knew I had to try to change this beloved dog park for the better. So I attempted to work with Dane County Parks Department in order to make this happen. I walked and talked the park with various park personnel. I contacted the Dane County Parks landscape architect, Chris James. He admitted that he is not a landscape architect, but rather an architect who designs pavilions for parks. He did encourage that if I could collect enough names, we could get stewardship rights for this park, and then we could have sway to improve this park however we wished. So I made a sign and started to try to collect signatures and email addresses for this stewardship initiative. I had no idea how hard it is to get anyone to sign anything, but still I plugged away to improve this park. It made me happy to think that I could give back to a place we loved. When I finally got the stewardship paperwork from the Parks Department volunteer coordinator, 6 weeks after she said she'd send it tomorrow, I found a 6-page job application. I wouldn't even sign this paperwork, let alone get anyone else to, so I changed my tack to the Viking Dog Park Improvement Initiative. I was told by Chris James that that should be sufficient to go forward, so I continued to collect names and email addresses, now late in the season for many people to be at the park. Attempting to move forward with this project in the spring of 2013, Chris James advised me to set up a meeting with the parks director, Dane Marsh. After agreeing to a date and time that worked for my husband's very tight schedule, and upon providing the requested meeting agenda, Dane Marsh suddenly pivots and opts for a public meeting at 9 a.m. on Saturday, May 4th, with absolutely no consideration for the fact that neither my husband nor I could attend that day. We were completely and utterly dumbfounded. This was clear obstruction and a despicable move, but what could we do? About 12 people showed up to this meeting, where the park patrons asked about getting more trees and a much-needed fence, but their requests were drowned out by Mr. Marsh's insistence on talking about everything else Dane County government was doing. Then he ended this sham of a meeting with the ultimate insult of handing out dead oak saplings as booby prizes. What kind of man does this? One who takes pleasure in making fools of people at their own expense. Nothing was going to get accomplished or improved here, period. After this great insult and disappointment, I discovered there was such a thing as a Parks Commission, and they have public comment before each meeting. So my husband Jeff and I decided to attend the next meeting on July 10th, 2013. I wanted to make a case for wildflower restoration and conservancy of these meadow areas, allow some naturally planted aspen trees and sandlot willows to grow, and plant other trees for the sake of shade, the ecosystem, and the sheer beauty of nature, global warming, as well as to counter the erosion occurring in this sensitive water area. Prior to this meeting, I desperately started pulling out these wicked wild parsnips, some as big as javelins. Wild parsnip is a very nasty plant that can chemically burn you, as is shown in this sign posted by Dane County Parks Department. Can you imagine what this chemical burn would do to the eyes of your dog or your child? According to my National Geographic resource, pulling or digging these plants out is the only way to get rid of these invasive species. The ground was wet and the weather was cool, and I worked hard at it for 15 to 20 minutes every day. It was quite a workout, but I was making headway in ridding these areas of the noxious wild parsnip, and a case for restoring these meadow areas. When my husband returned from a long business trip, I got him to come and pull weeds with me. He even took a precious day of vacation in order for us to clear these awful weeds. Time was of the essence, and no one could help us at this time. So the two of us successfully cleared 3 of 4 of these meadow areas before we attended the Parks Commission meeting, where we requested a master plan for this park. A master plan was so declared by the president of this commission, and then we were asked to leave. What? What's going to happen? I'll tell you what happened. This master plan went right back to the man who had obstructed it in the first place, Darren Marsh. 1 month later, Mr. Marsh requested to meet us at the park, now the middle of August 2013, where he told us straight out that he was just going to come in and mow down all this work and spare no trees. My husband tried to negotiate for a few trees, and I was utterly speechless with outrage. We were expecting a master plan, but what we got was chapter and verse from the Idiot's Guide to Authoritarianism. This is unbelievable. No park improvement allowed. Damn the environment and damn democracy. Take a pledge of allegiance to that. When I returned to the park on the following Monday, what I found was beyond belief. This park had been butchered. Their snarling, high-powered mowers had come in and stripped down the sandlot willows along the fence line. Their bulldozers had come in and utterly, maliciously destroyed a natural copse historic to this park for 20 years. They bashed in other green spaces and mowed down the wild parsnip-free meadow areas that we had so painstakingly cleared, and leaving untouched the most infested meadow area that we had not been able to clear. This was monstrous, shocking, horrific, fiendish, frightening. Darren Marsh's intent was to instill fear and intimidation. He would stop this park improvement initiative by dealing the crushing shock and awe beatdown. Then they removed my friendly Friends of Viking Dog Park Improvement Initiative sign from what had been used as a friendly community signboard and posted a new sign that dictated no one could post any sign without Dane County Parks Department permission. Where are we? Nazi Germany? Rule by fear and intimidation? This is Dane County's brand of democracy? Did anyone pledge your allegiance to this? Psychologically, I felt as though I had been raped. It was a brutal physical assault on this park, on my project for park improvement, and on my good name. Everyone at the Viking Dog Park was shocked and saddened, even the dogs. After this malicious, punitive destruction, I was in fear for what they might do to me and my family. If they could get away with this with impunity, just what else are they able to get away with? I felt truly beaten up. I had no strength to go knocking on doors or show up at a meeting, though I did write the Parks Commission and Joe Parisi's office time and time again, but to no avail. Silence is just another term for cover-up. This fearful feeling stayed with me for a long time. I could not go back there anymore. What had been our happy place had now become that of a nightmare. I contacted our Dane County Board representative, Robin Schmidt, about this. She told me that wasn't in her jurisdiction, so I should talk to Carl Chenoweth, a board supervisor who was from the Stoughton area. This brutal assault happened mid-August 2013. Carl Chenoweth followed up with me nearly 4 months later on a freezing December morning, by then blanketed in snow. Carl Chenoweth didn't see anything wrong, and well, that was that. What a hopeless mess. Where are we? Some second world country? This again was total frustration. Negotiating the enormous county government system is no easy task. I've received no representation from any Dane County representative. I had written to Joe Parisi and the Parks Commission time and time again, pleading, prodding, and even provoking, but with no follow-up response whatsoever. At long last, I received an email from Carl Chenoweth indicating that everything was A-OK with the Parks Department, and the attached letter to him from Darren Marsh said they were simply mowing everything at Viking Dog Park as usual, and something about a hard-to-educate woman. Whatever had become of this master plan? The ethics board finally looked at this through a small crack in the door. Their determination at long last was that this is not against our guidelines. Case closed. This meant that no one was actually going to investigate this travesty of justice. Since when is it legal to kill baby birds in their nest and destroy the natural environment? The Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 makes it illegal, i.e. criminal, to harm these birds. How is it that Dane County government can just supersede federal law? And how is it that they've been doing so for nearly 100 years? I contacted the media, including all the main Madison TV stations, the Wisconsin State Journal, and the Capital Times, as well as the online Dane Watch publication. A volunteer at WISC TV did seem to think that something funny was going on with this park and did in fact make a few calls. Just enough to get some hurry-up meetings over at Dane County Land and Water Resources and Park Department to drop in 8 trees all of a sudden. Placement was not a consideration. Only one tree would actually provide shade to park patrons, and one tree died because it was too distressed and not tended properly in the high heat of this time. Then suddenly WISC TV said that they were too busy with the old and naive being scammed to continue this investigation any further. Dane County government had made sure of that. The Wisconsin State Journal did publish my letter to the editor outlining this saga in the Saturday, February 14th, 2015 newspaper. They also ran it in their online edition until for whatever reason it was completely redacted. Same with the Capital Times. They ran a soft-pedaled version which they later redacted completely. Let me see, how does this work? Our government watchdog, our Fourth Estate Free Press, just rolled over like a well-trained puppy when someone at Dane County government said this needs to neatly go away. This is a very frightening concept for democracy and the free press. The Fourth Estate becomes the fifth column, whether wittingly or unwittingly. At long last, I emailed the entire Board of Supervisors with this grievance and have, of course, received no response. Silence is just another term for cover-up. I've talked to every environmental group in town, and while they're more than happy to take your money, they can't help. I've talked to a dozen lawyers, and it is apparent that I don't have the standing, i.e., $250,000, to take this to court. Who does? How is anyone supposed to achieve justice? I returned to Viking Dog Park early last June 2016, where I took these photos before the big mow. As you can see, the Viking Dog Park is awash in an ocean of wild parsnip. It is easy to understand why I was trying to improve this beloved dog park with tender, loving care. This infestation is a result of years of neglect and proper caretaking. The sea of burdock in the on-leash area shows more proof of years of neglect and bad land management. These pictures are undeniable evidence to that fact. About 2 weeks later, after the big mow, these videos were shot. This is undeniable proof that Dane County Land and Water Resources Parks Department is still mowing migratory baby birds to death in June, prime breeding time, and in criminal violation of federal law. The remaining ocean of wild parsnip that still infests areas is again more evidence of neglect and bad land management. There is one lone coneflower planted by Mother Nature on the grave of the natural copse that was destroyed, that now stands among burdocks and thistles that replaced it. As you can see in the before the destruction aerial photograph, the existence of this natural copse, and in the other after the destruction aerial photograph, this area now shows as an enormous scar. This is a scar that is a reminder of all the malicious misdeeds that went on here. It represents many things to me, mostly the need to expose this scandal to the public, as well as the need for positive change and justice. As long as we're looking at this aerial photograph, I would like to point out the drainage ditch from the farm across the river from the first beach. This is an open, toxic sewer to this river and this beach. This would seem to be in violation of the Federal Freshwater Act of 1972. But it turns out that farmers can just voluntarily opt out of this federal obligation, which means that the worst water polluters are getting away with murder. I have seen dogs contract everything from bacterial eye infections to open body sores, the kind that don't heal. It could also likely be responsible for other dog issues and disease, including tumors and cancer. The most notorious of these chemical villains being intentionally spilled here is atrazine. Atrazine was banned in Europe in 2005 as a known carcinogen. In the meanwhile, in America, farmers are spraying it on everything. It has even been found in breast milk. This chemical is known to change a male frog into an egg-laying female. It chemically castrates wildlife, totally wrecking the reproductive systems of amphibians, birds, and mammals. Where there is water, there is life. Where there is polluted water, there is disease. Got cancer, got CWD. Why is this still happening? How do we stop this? In the beginning, I only wanted to improve a beloved dog park. What I found instead was a county government riddled with cruelty and deceit, ignorance of federal law, betrayal of public trust, layers of inadequacies of oversight and accountability, and to top it off, criminal acts. Dane County government has the money to buy up more and more land, but are unable to restore and preserve these existing properties that is their duty to accomplish by their own mission statements. They have gaping holes in oversight on so many levels it boggles the mind. You have a lack of accountability that you can drive a bulldozer through and get away with it. I've poked and prodded this lifeless democratic body politic going on 4 years, and I can find no reasonable response to this outrage whatsoever. So while I can't afford to take the Dane County Parks Department to court, I can afford to take this case to the court of public opinion. We, the people, need to clearly see what masquerades as a good, fair, transparent, accountable government and hold these officials accountable. Let's take back this democracy and our environment, starting with Dane County. This is the reality that surrounds the 77 square miles that is Madison. You want to see how government actually works on the ground level, just pull back the curtain. You will learn more than you can ever imagine. And there's more to this true story for anyone who dares to actually investigate it.